And one of the things that we do when we're talking to people that want to grow and possibly become syndicators is we say, okay, let's look inward. What are your gifts? What have you been given right now that you love to do? Are you somebody who loves spreadsheets? Are you somebody that is so meticulous you will read through contracts just looking for problems? Like, you need somebody that's into doing that stuff. Are you somebody that is, it takes a little bit of courage to be calling brokers, and you try and set up lunches and trying to talk to lenders and the insurance and inspections. So you need somebody who's mechanical. You need all these parts. So we say to you, what's your parts? What do you feel is you're good at? And then let's try and find it. We've kind of found it takes like 4 people or 4 teams on a typical GP to play all those parts and make it successful. So. We learned some stuff outside of Michael Blanc. He was the inspiration for us to even move into this. If we knew now, and at the time we didn't know all that Michael Blanc's team offers, what we do is we do recommend other people that we are teaching that want to do this. We do recommend his program because we think the deal analyzer, and we know that it's all taught there. We think that is just the best tool. And we do recommend then we tell them, like, here's the website, here's how much it costs, go get it, get started with it. So. And
one of the reasons we recommend Michael Blanc is, his character. He's a Christian, he's a God-fearing person, and we are too. We tend to like to associate with other Christians, not exclusively.
People that want to
because
help.
Part of our mission as Christians, of course, is to spread the gospel to those who haven't heard it. So we work with all kinds of people, but we believe there's integrity in Michael Blanc and his product, and that's why I recommend it.
And one of the other reasons that we recommend his too is he's not like, oh, go out and get a 200 unit off the bat. He's like, wherever you're at, because everybody's situation is different. I mean, some people might still have young kids at home and truly can only do a smaller deal with like a JV situation. Maybe, it just kind of depends. And so I do like that about the program, that he's so open to all levels coming in, to get started. Just to get started, that's the biggest thing. Take the step. It might be scary, but take the step.
So you touched on something too, and I've asked some of our previous guests the same question. And you had mentioned, which is extremely important to me too, credibility, honesty, character. So that being said, most of us can't do this alone. So what would you recommend to those watching? How to build a team? What are some things to look for? What are some red flags? How did you guys really scope out to a team? Because as we all know, if you really want to scale, you need a team. It's hard to do all of this alone. You could be, superwoman, all right, go rock it, but it's hard.
Yeah, so if they want to work 14 hours a day.
What's that?
They could do it. If they want to work 14 hours, 16 hours a day, they could do it, but we're going to recommend a team.
Crazy.
Yes. Like Rachael mentioned, in our journey, we happen to be fortunate enough to come under the wing of a couple of guys out in Las Vegas who help teach us the ropes. And now we're kind of turning around and doing that back to other folks that are interested in some investments that we're looking at. But you do have to have people on your team. You do have to have somebody on your team who can find deals, who likes to talk to brokers. And you have to have another person or same person that can underwrite, that can really analyze those deals quickly and decide whether or not we're spending time on it. It's nice to have a person on your team who can deal with social media, because that's become such an important part of this. Mm-hmm. And setting up your tech, and maybe you have a portal, maybe you have a Facebook page, maybe you LinkedIn webinars, and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So finding people that are of like mind is important, and also finding people that have different complementary skill sets is important.
And one of the things that we do when we're talking to people that want to grow and possibly become syndicators is we say, okay, let's look inward. What are your gifts? What have you been given right now that you love to do? Are you somebody who loves spreadsheets? Are you somebody that is so meticulous you will read through contracts just looking for problems? Like, you need somebody that's into doing that stuff. Are you somebody that is it takes a little bit of courage to be calling brokers, and you try and set up lunches and trying to talk to lenders and the insurance and inspection. So you need somebody's mechanical, you need all these parts. So we say to you, what's your parts? What do you feel is you're good at? And then let's try and find it. We've kind of found it takes like 4 people or 4 teams on a typical GP to play all those parts and make it successful. So
Rachel touched on a really important part I'd like to mention. You have to have a communicator on your team, somebody who's social, who can talk to people, who's not afraid to really put things on the table, who's kind. And Rachel's all those things. That's the area that she shines. I don't know if you picked up on that, but that's her superwoman's strength.
you saying I'm the chatty Cathy?
There's nothing wrong with that as long as you're providing value, right?
Absolutely.
So then I'm going to ask you then, because I feel there's a lot of value. So when we were growing our team, my goal was at least once a quarter to show up in person, because that's half the battle, is just show up. Please, for the love of God, don't stay behind your computer. Okay. So that being said, have most of your relationships, did you feel it was easier to build once you were in person? Were most of these built? I know you met some of the gentlemen in an event in Vegas and some other avenues. Were there any relationships that you built over just the internet and the video, or was everything an in-person interaction?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Okay.
We do belong to another Christian organization of real estate investors that has meetings 2 or 3 times a year
In person
in a different locations around the country. We have weekly meetings with a small subset of that group that allows us as just a small group to get to know each other and to talk about real estate and to talk about our lives and pray for each other if need be. So we met lots of people that, in fact, 2 of our first partners in this deal in Iowa came from that group that we actually met in person or through our weekly Zoom meetings.
I personally would say that, even though it's amazing, we form great relationships on Zoom, there's just something about being in person that throws another layer on. You can read people's body language, and I've kind of got that interpersonal thing. We're both teachers. It's an amazing feeling. Being able to hug somebody. It's so exciting. It's so fun. Joining each other in this journey and all the learning that takes place. So I personally think in person.
I'll echo that too. That's critical. You have to have that face-to-face contact. They both work together, though. I think you need both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Because I have so many people that are just like, they're struggling to progress, but they're never in person. I go, I know it costs money, but you're investing in yourself. And I think it was Alex Hermosi, who I love, that made this comment, is stop investing in the S&P and invest in the SME. Like I've said that, and I've said that to a few people, but it really resonated with me. He was speaking on a virtual platform for Tony Robbins, and I was listening to him. I was like, he has a cool YouTube channel. If you know who he is, he's just super cool. And then there was a couple questions. I'm trying to keep an eye on the clock and be respectful of your time simultaneously while, getting all these questions out for you. Another thing I wanted to ask you about was, were you comfortable prior to this journey talking about money? A lot of people have a hard time talking about millions of dollars. They come from a scarcity mindset as opposed to a world of abundance. If so, how did you overcome that? And if not, how are you already comfortable speaking about these large amounts of money?
Okay, so one thing, as teachers, and you can tell how somebody feels, what makes them kind of cringe a little. We definitely found that we got open with our financial situation. So we created a moment where we were vulnerable in front of somebody else so they could feel okay to be vulnerable and relate to us. Because a lot of us are in this age range. We're in our 50s, maybe 40s, 50s. We're starting to think about the future, secure it for our family. So we just kind of go, here's where we were. Here's what we were making as teachers, and we thought we could complement it by adding some real estate. Here's where we are. We're just passing the accredited zone. And then what does that mean? So then you start talking about that. And we just tell them, because why not? if we all work together, we can accomplish so much more. And it does take knowing each other's financial situation. Plus, we wouldn't want somebody to invest their last dollar to be in our deal. We want to make sure they are fine. I mean, we've had to tell some people in a very nice way, this probably isn't the safest thing right now for you to do for your situation. How about let's check back in like 2 years, or let's find a different way you could come in on a smaller type of situation. So it's been, just in a non-judgmental, because everybody's at a different place. And if we find somebody's at a place that, definitely has no finances, we start teaching them creative, how to go get their own house hack with no money out of pocket. We'll just show them some of those techniques we learned from Carlton Sheets when we were younger.
Essentially, you're a financial fiduciary, right? You have to put other people's needs ahead of your own because your reputation is everything and you want to make sure you're taking care of everybody.
Yep.
So I know we're around 5 minutes till, I know I'm so, even in the corporate world, I'm always like looking at the clock, which actually I have a few questions. I should make it quick. One, are you still teachers? Are you guys still juggling to being a teacher and real estate simultaneously?
So
Yeah.
we're not employed by any official institution to teach. I retired from teaching about 5 years ago and Rachael about 3, but we still consider ourselves teachers in the real estate realm. For example, the people that are coming into our current deal, we've offered to give them a peek behind the curtain and teach them the steps along the way with their investments so they can see what it's like to be a general partner and to do the due diligence and to go through the weekly reports and that kind of thing.
And just give them more of an idea of what the lead sponsorship takes. And really, it's not just so easy to work a W-2 and do this on the side. If you don't have a big team, if you have a team, yeah, you can all play some of those parts. But we try and really open it up for people to help them know all the parts. So at least they understand a little bit even about asset management and interviewing property managers and how to find alternative ways to find properties.
Refinancing, distributions, the whole works, the whole after you purchase.
Portals, SEC documents. What's a blue sky document?
Yes.
What?
Guys, well then, so for those, and I love your guys' story. It's completely relatable. I think the viewers are going to love this. So for the people who are on the edge, they're humming and hawing, they really don't know if this is for them or they're just scared to take that leap. What would you say to them?
I would say connect with somebody who's done it, or somebody that who can connect you with someone who's done it. Talk to them, try and ask those questions. What is it that's making you afraid? Why are you on the edge? There's really great reasons to invest in real estate, especially during this economic time period. The stock market's taking a hit, and some of your IRAs and 401ks aren't quite looking as they were 6 months ago. So talk to somebody, get in touch with somebody, listen to the podcast, find a resource that will help kind of answer some of those questions.
And one of the things we cannot recommend enough is I wouldn't jump into this with just watching YouTubes and listening to podcasts. I would we recommend to everybody take an educational course that teaches you how to underwrite properly because you are a fiduciary. You have a fiduciary responsibility to the people you're going to bring in, and you would not want to fail. That would hurt you to hurt other people. So why not do it the right way? The government allows you to start a business. There's many benefits for starting a business. We highly recommend that. And why not do it the right way? And just trust, this is where the God part comes in. You got to pray. You got to, number one, ask if this is the right path. 2, then trust for him to provide. So yes, it costs some money up front. But, if you're faithful, he's faithful. He'll help take care of you.